Welcome to the Bliss Builders podcast, a podcast about mental health
and personal growth
with Kristina
and Sandra Diebel.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Bliss Builders podcast with my beautiful co-host Sandra and myself, Kristina. Today, we're going to talk about honest sharing. In our last episode, we talked about communication, and Sandra shared her communication basics with us, and that gave me the idea to try a new communication method that I've just recently heard of, which is honest sharing. My sister shared that method with me, and it is or was developed and open sourced by Gopal Norbert Klein, who, yes, is spreading it across the globe, and it is said to help with mindfulness, help to become in the present moment, foster connections between people, and resolve trauma, as it's helping us to stay in the present moment. So I'm going to explain as good as I can in short what it is. So the framework is pretty simple. You meet with another person that is safe and that you trust, and then you state only one sentence with the same phrases starting the sentence each time. So either my head thinks that, and then you share your thought. I feel, and then you share whatever feeling comes up in you. I sense, and then you share whatever sensation is going on in your body. And the process is very simple. You start with a moment of silence. Then person A shares for 5 to 10 minutes. Then there's another moment of silence. Then person B shares for 5 to 10 minutes. Then there's another silence. And then afterwards, you can talk about your experience with that process if you want to, but you should always ask for permission. And there's very strict rules to this whole thing. For example, to keep it to one sentence and start every sentence with the set phrases and perceive what comes up in yourself while you're doing so. And we will try that out. We've already agreed that we're just going to do that for 5 minutes, just to really keep it strict. And a few rules are to stay focused on yourself. So only talk about your own perception. Stay focused on your own body. So don't discuss things that are happening on the outside, like noises around you, but always stay focused on yourself. So you can basically say, if something is disturbing you, you can say, my head thinks that a noise is disturbing me, but stay as good as you can with yourself.
It's even more challenging.
Yes. So it is probably not the easiest of practices, but I'm really excited to try it out. And later on, we will upload our papers on Patreon, where you can look up basically the whole rule structure, what is important if you want to try it out. And we will also link the article about honest sharing into the show notes. So so you can basically look up anything you might still have questions about, because there's a lot about that topic. And our last episode about communication, as well as this one and all our episodes, are on Patreon, so you can find us there over Bliss Builders podcast. And we continuously, with every episode, upload papers. So if you need more information, if you want it all written down in a more concise way, you can always go there. Okay.
Ready?
So we're gonna try that out now.
Yep. All right. Let the experiment begin.
Okay.
Also, this is our first time, so we haven't tried it before. Kristina was mentioning it before to me, and she explained it a little bit, but she wanted to try it with me, and we wanted to do it before we record the episode, actually. But yeah, time was flying by, and now we decided to just try it on the podcast. And so, yeah, this is really our first time. Let's see how it goes.
Okay. We already agreed that I'm gonna start to give examples of how it's supposed to work, and I'm gonna try my best because this is also the first time for me trying that, and then it's gonna be her.
And I'm gonna have a look at the clock so that we really more or less go with the 5 minutes.
And discipline. Okay.
All right.
I sense pressure on my stomach. My head thinks that is due to eating right before the episode. I feel amusement. I sense relaxation in my arm. My head thinks that there is no clear thoughts coming at this moment. My head thinks that could be due to the noises. I feel amused. My head thinks that this is a really awkward process. My head thinks that our listeners might turn it off right now. I feel I feel amusement. My head asks if people will listen to this. My head wonders. Oh, my head thinks that it wonders if that is worry. My head thinks that it doesn't want to worry. I feel amusement. My head thinks that it wonders if the feeling is amusement. My head thinks that I might lack the vocabulary. My head thinks that it might lack the vocabulary for this perceived emotion. My I sense sweat forming under my arms. My head thinks that I should have dressed in less warm clothing. My head thinks that I should have pronounced clothing as clothing. I feel a buzzing around my chest. I sense a buzzing around my chest. I sense my head thinks that I have to watch the statements.
I sense that my heartbeat is getting faster because I feel some pressure to say something. I sense that the corners of my mouth go up even if I try to avoid it. I feel the feeling of happiness inside and fun. My head thinks that it's a bit awkward but funny. My head thinks about the dentist above us. I sense some pain in my back because I try to keep my position up, straight up. I think about the tomatoes I just planted before. My head thinks that. My head thinks about the tomatoes. I think that you probably hear all the noises pretty much in the recording, even though it's probably not the case. I feel some pressure to keep going. Feel. My head thinks that this might work better in other situations where you had a tricky conversation or anything before. My head thinks it's getting distracted by the conversation the dentist above has right now on her phone. And I can hear. I sense that my hands are getting sweaty. I sense that it is getting darker in here. my head thinks about a monkey with drums in my head because there's nothing coming up. I feel amused too. I sense that my feet are a bit cold. And I sense that I have something in my right eye. And my head thinks about the pattern on this hoof. And my head thinks about the time when this is finally over. I feel dumb and embarrassed because of this situation. My head doesn't know what to think anymore. Thinks not to know what.
Okay, well, that was funny to try.
Okay, can I ask you the most interesting question that comes up in me?
Sure.
What is it good for?
So, first of all, it's good for coming to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
It really slows down your thoughts
Yeah.
because you have to follow the strict rules, which we both now experienced is pretty tricky, and I already see all the reasons why there is strict rules. For example, sticking especially to the my head thinks that and I feel and I sense statements instead of my head thinks about, I think, and all the things that happen that lead us to having more, like, let's say, normal conversations. The same thing I've also noticed is how we use interpretations of things as feelings, because, for example, you shared that you feel dumb, but it's not a feeling. Embarrassed is a feeling. So in that sense, it might have been my head thinks that I feel dumb. I'm not sure if you can feel dumb. I don't think dumbness is a feeling. I think that is a thought. So I find that really interesting.
Tricky.
I find the pauses that your brain does interesting. And what I find the most interesting about this whole thing, and that's why I wanted to try it, because that's why people say you should just try it, is that you say things like, or I said this as well, my head thinks that there's nothing coming, but there is stuff coming. So I think it's funny that how we tell ourselves that our brain is empty while it is actually full. Because you were like with the monkey, and then you were also speaking at the same time. So there is stuff going on, and it's not empty at all. It just feels that way, but it's not, because there's stuff going on in any moment, in a way. Maybe for a few seconds, but it's like already noticeable. It's the same thing like when people say, think of the next thought that is going to come to your head, and then usually that kind of like interrupts the whole thing, where you're like, where there's like a blank in your head. and then the thought, there's a blank in my head, comes up or something. So I found that really interesting. It's also very amusing. I think it is something I want to do again and try and practice, because it definitely brings you to the present moment. And it also makes you, or made me, aware of vocabulary and how we use it for the wrong things and mix senses and feelings up. And also what our head makes up. So, like, what our head thinks and makes up, we confuse with our feelings and emotions. And I think a great benefit of this exercise is probably the disidentification of our emotions, our senses, and our thoughts. And it brings you to the awareness that you are the thing perceiving all of that, and you're not your body, your feelings, and your thoughts.
When you told me about it the first time, you were saying that your sister even uses it with the couples as a therapist, right? Or wanted to
She
use it?
wanted to use it. Currently, she's still practicing it in her relationship to see, like, to try it out herself. She also encouraged me to try it out with as many people as I can, to also get some feedback to see if that could potentially be all that it is needed to solve conflicts, for example. And I think it could potentially solve conflicts, because if you just stay with yourself and you describe the sensations that are going on in your body and the feelings that you're feeling and what your, like, the stories that your head makes up, I think that is quite interesting. For example, for me, it was quite interesting about you sharing, like, your pain, that you have something in your eye. There's like so many things that if we talk to people usually, we don't know. The same thing like with the thoughts going on. And I think if you do it more and more often, you see sides of people that you normally would not see, because normally you don't hear their thoughts and their thoughts are not expressed. So I think that is quite interesting. And I think it also builds connection, because it is probably the most honest sharing if you share the thoughts that come up.
That's why it's called honest sharing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel
So,
like
how would you say that you can use this in your daily life? Because this was now a made up situation with it. Okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna try it. We're gonna try it for this podcast. It. I'm still struggling a little bit in my head to implement it in my daily life. Let's say, I don't know, I'm with my partner and I don't know, we discuss about what we're gonna eat for dinner or whatever, and we're getting annoyed with each other because no one gives the answer.
from what I've read, Gopal recommends to, in partnerships and friendships that are open to it, because you should only do it with a partner that is safe and open to trying this method.
What do you mean by safe?
Safe in the sense that they are someone you trust.
Okay.
Trust enough to do that with.
Okay.
And he recommends that whether in couples, like in relationships or friendships, you should practice it 10 to 20 minutes a day with your partner every day, not just when you have conflicts, but to get a practice. Then in the beginning, literally practices like we just did, which means without anything to talk about, just to practice becoming present and doing that, like the listening with each other. And then slowly practice doing that when, for example, conflicts arise. Start with very small ones. When someone feels slightly irritated or the harmony is slightly off, and then build your way up in that practice to be able to then use that concept on bigger conflicts and talk about bigger emotions. That's what he recommends. And I think like every meditation practice, mindfulness practice, and it's kind of like a mindfulness exercise out loud with another person. I think it's important to practice it on a regular basis,
like with everything, sure,
to get the effect of it. But it was already pretty fun trying it out.
It would be really interesting to use it in a conflict situation or when you feel irritated, something like this. So I think that's something, yeah, very different to.
Yeah, but I think if you have not practiced it before, it's very hard.
Harder.
I mean, like as you could see in our example, it was already hard enough to kind of stick to the statements of my head thinks that, I feel, I sense, and keep all of that disciplined in the right order. It's like, is that a feeling? Is that a sensing? Uh, is that something my head makes up?
Yeah.
So I think if you are in a relationship and you practice that in advance or outside of conflicts until you're really good at it, and then you try it on conflicts, you're better set up than if you try it on conflicts right away, because I'm pretty sure that the practice and the awareness is lacking to actually stay with that structure, and just
also because
blows up.
Yeah, also because you're so emotional mostly in this stage, so you have to regulate yourself first and then get back to even this method. You have to, yeah, think about this method even when you are in this situation. I think that's pretty tricky at all. So
Yeah,
and I think it's also a big deal what you said, that the other person has to be open for it. Because if I think about some people, even my own partner, I wouldn't say that he would be open to that. At least not right now in this state. So yeah, that could be something we could try and learn and try to implement, for example. But that the other person or both are open to it is very essential, I would say. Because then otherwise the other one stands up from the table and just bullshit, and what should this be good for or something. And yeah, I would have in mind eye.
yeah. There's also groups that meet up to do honest sharing. Probably a lot of people who don't have like partners or friends to practice with, and then they're practicing it in groups. And I personally believe that you can also just try it out for yourself and practice with yourself, because even if you're just practicing with yourself, I think it brings you back to the present moment, and just kind of like talking to yourself slash structuring yourself in that sense. It's like my head thinks that, I sense, or my body sense. I personally think that like if you would state it as my body senses, it makes it easier to not confuse sensing and feeling. My body senses, and then I feel the emotion, maybe, to make it clear. But I think it is like an open concept that you can experiment with. And then, yeah, there's groups where you can go to. So wherever you are, Google it, see if there's honest sharing groups in your town. There's plenty of videos you can find of people practicing honest sharing, and we will link the article about honest sharing with all the rules and what is important to pay attention to in the show notes.
That brings me an idea to my mind, or a thought, is honest sharing could be then also a good mindful tool for yourself, for your own practice, to desensitize yourself against some anxiety or irritation. So if you would put yourself in situations step by step that irritate you or that make you anxious, and you start this practice with, I think my head thinks this or that, my body feels this and that, my body senses, oh my goodness, my head thinks, my body senses, I feel around this situation, that you also can gain some clarity about it. So what is it actually that makes me anxious? What is the reaction of my body to it? So that can bring some awareness about the cause and the effect, both maybe together, what helps you to then work on them.
Mm-hmm.
If you're good already, you can do it yourself. If not, that could be something you do with a therapist or with a coach, for example. I think that could be a very nice method.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I believe that practicing that for yourself can also be really, really helpful to detach from the meanings and the stories that your head tells itself.
Explain.
Because, for example, in that practice, you could, for example, say, I'm getting really warm, instead of saying what is actually happening with your body, which is that your body is um, sweating, for example. And I think it's a little bit hard to explain, but I believe that if you practice that continuously with yourself or others, it brings awareness to the fact that a lot of the times our head makes up stories and makes up meaning about things that might not mean the same thing.
Biases.
So you could feel tension in your chest, for example, but feel really happy, and then realize, oh, what I interpret as happiness, like, or, you know, maybe not tension, but you feel tension and you, or like a certain pressure, let's say a pressure on your chest, and you feel it when you're nervous, but you also feel it when you're excited, and then you realize that your head choose, like, your thought, like, yeah, your head kind of like chooses how it thinks about that and what meaning it gives it. So it could interpret that pressure sensation as excitement, or it could interpret that pressure sensation as anxiety or nervousness. And I believe if you practice that, it becomes clearer and you become detached from certain meanings that you've learned possibly in your childhood when you felt a sensation and your parents made assumptions about what you feel and then said, oh, yeah, you're just anxious. But maybe you weren't anxious. Maybe you just felt a pressure because you were breathing flat, or maybe you were actually excited, but your parents judged it wrong. You know what I mean?
You mean when others perceived it a certain way and tried to force that perception on you?
Possibly.
But
Or
also,
that, yeah, or that the sensations in your body don't always mean that you feel a certain thing, possibly. That is just as,
misinterpretation of
yeah,
your own body.
that your mind makes up stories about that. Also, I think that this whole becoming aware that your mind makes up stories and gives things meaning is a valuable lesson in itself, because as soon as you realize that, you can consciously choose stories that make you feel better, meanings that are helpful to you and that serve you, and therefore create a more blissful life. For example, I had, like in my own life, I had that recently, where especially in uncertainty. So we also discussed that in our how to overcome fear episodes, and also in this, I think, in our emotional how to feel your feelings episode, possibly. Mm. But in a situation where you don't know what's happening because it's out of your control and you don't know what's going to happen, you absolutely cannot see in the future, it's all open, and you can either make up the story of terrible things in your head, or you can make up the story that positive things are happening, and that's why you don't know what's going on.
That's the worst case.
Exactly. But you realize, I think this exercise, along with practicing mindfulness in general, is just really, really helpful to become aware in the moment that you're having those thoughts. My head, like, the reason I feel the way I feel is because my head made up all those stories, and to become aware. The same thing as we've discussed in the communication episode, that like you need the awareness to be able to implement pretty much anything you want to change in the moment. So I think that's really helpful for that.
I give you one example that comes up and tell me if it's what you mean or not. So let's say you have to be on a stage and you get stressed, where the stress is something that can help you actually also to um, yeah, present better. It feeds you with certain hormones and keeps, what is it, the dopamine level high. So there is a type of stress that's actually pretty good. Also in some situation, if you have a deadline or whatever. And then there is a lot of stress, especially in our daily lives, that we build up ourselves that would not be necessary. What is the stress and the stress? Not can't talk anymore today. The stress that is especially over a long period of time.
Chronic stress.
Yeah, that's right. So, for example, is what you mean that with this exercise and these feelings, you should also become more aware to, kind of detach those from each other and see more, okay, what does actually serve me and help me and what is not useful for me.
I think stress is also a story that your head makes up. Because as you said, there, like, scientifically, there's positive stress and negative stress. And from what I remember, it all comes down to how you interpret
How
that
you
stress.
interpret
If you
it.
interpret it as exciting challenges that you're happy to try out, or if you're overwhelmed and you feel like you can't do it. And the difference is basically, I can do it and I'm excited and it's positive stress, or I can't do it, I'm overwhelmed and it's negative stress.
What is also stories that you get told maybe more from society, from the media, etc., especially nowadays where there is a big focus on stress, like especially chronic stress. And it's pointed out more and more how negatively disinfects your body as well, like not only your mental health but really your body, where I have the feeling also the positive sides of stress, like the positive stress, missed out sometimes, where the people are now more and more programmed on the negative stress and maybe interpret everything automatically as bad as soon as there is kind of a stress reaction coming up. And was it something like this you wanted to point out, that you when you practice this exercise and this mindfulness, that you can then listen more intense to your body, to yourself, and kind of override those stories that you even have been told before, maybe even from outside, not only from your own head.
Yes, because then you are aware that that is a story you're telling yourself. You do have sensations and you do have feelings. But as you might know from your own life, if you feel really good and you have certain sensations, you interpret them very differently than if you feel bad.
Yeah.
So if I feel happiness and excitement and joyous emotions and I have pain, I interpret it as like something that might just come up right now. But if I feel sadness, grief, despair, hopelessness, whatever, and I feel pain, my head might make up stories about me getting cancer and dying. While if I'm happy, my head disregards it and is like, ah, it's gonna be fine. It's just a little cramp or I don't know.
But this is so true. Actually, that reminds me of the pimple I have on my fucking cheek that burns since 3 fucking days, actually. And back at home, I would say, okay, it's a bloody pimple and it's gonna go away. As I'm here in Australia and the sun and the UV factor is that high, I suddenly get completely anxious. That is a kind of skin cancer, you know?
Because it's a pimple.
I don't know if it's a pimple, but it's burning as hell.
Okay.
And I don't know what it is. It, but yeah, that's exactly what you were saying. The mood you are in, and also like the situations where the factual information, the fact itself, doesn't change. Yeah, it's a pimple here or in Austria, it doesn't matter. But the situation around makes a difference.
And your interpretation.
In my head.
Yeah,
my
and
head.
your interpretation as well.
So
because like if you're, I think it's so funny that we're talking about pimples.
I didn't know if it's
but if your pimple would burn in Austria back at home, you would probably not directly associate it with skin cancer.
No, that's what I mean.
I think here it's just so prevalent, and wherever you look, there's like all those get checked out for skin cancer, and there's a lot of people here who have skin cancer, and coming from countries where it's not as obvious and there's no 5,000 skin cancer clinics everywhere that advertise skin cancer, you're just not even thinking about those kind of things.
Yeah, right. So this makes a huge difference, and this is such a good example how your mind builds up any story and how much it is affected from the outside world as well.
Yeah.
Hope it's not.
But I think for me, it just shows how important your emotions are and how important it is to pay attention to how you feel while your head makes up stories, which is not always easy, but that's why we practice awareness, so we become aware in the moment and we become aware of what's going on inside of us. And sometimes that's not easy because if you're really in it, a lot of times you're only in it because you're like unconscious or basically in your subconscious and you're in your autopilot and you don't notice.
Do you give that many credits to the feeling? As I would personally give more credits to the awareness itself, where we are so often on autopilot. What's also often good, because if you think about every little task you do, your brain gets overwhelmed. But like this, for example, you have to be aware that your head builds up the story, and you have to be aware that this could be maybe because you're surrounded with that many warning signs, with that many clinics, and like the fact story that the UV factor is way higher here than in Europe, for example. So you have to be aware of that. Where I wouldn't say, okay, the feeling about it doesn't change anything, but the awareness factor.
Oh, no, I meant that, like, if you watch, for example, if you get yourself into a happy place inside of yourself, so you practice for like a few moments when you wake up, you practice kind of like setting positive intentions for your day, focusing your thoughts on positive topics, like what you would like to happen, what you're grateful for, and so on and so forth. And you feel really good, and you continue practicing feeling good over like throughout the day, you're more likely to be aware, and you're more likely to interpret things in a more positive way than if you wake up like I did today and I was super stressed and I was immediately on autopilot. and things and I was like, things like didn't work out with like editing and stuff. And I don't know, I felt like my to-do list became overwhelming. And now that I have eaten something, which is very important sometimes, I've eaten something, I had something to drink, and like made sure basic like needs were taken care of. Although that even stressed me more in the moment because I was like, now I even have to eat on top of all of it. But then after I had eaten something and after I had like some breaths and I did something to regulate my nervous system, which was humming, I realized, hey, like we're gonna do the episode, like I've got that done, like I got points of my to-do list done. I can do the other points after we've recorded the, like, and I went through the whole thing and I was like, hey, it's actually not that bad, and you're already working on the to-do, like you have enough time. Because I think I woke up with the feeling that I don't have time. That's the feeling I woke up with, because I currently have more things on my to-do list than usual. And yeah, and it just took, well, eating, drinking, and regulating my nervous system by humming for like 5 to 10 minutes to kind of like get into a better feeling. So that's what I'm kind of thinking. So it's not about the story, the environment or the stories your head makes up about skin cancer or pimples, but if you're just feeling better, your head interprets things very differently. So if you kind of make it important to you to feel good emotionally, then your thoughts kind of also align that, and you kind of can start the day by consciously focusing your thoughts in a certain way to make it easier to then stay in that thing. So I don't know if that's making sense, but do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I do. It makes sense. Where I would maybe just paraphrase it a bit differently is you took a break and cared about yourself, right?
I did, yeah.
Because this is also, yeah, this was becoming kind of a little trick I also used in the last couple of months for myself when I felt a bit overwhelmed and the to-do list is that long, where it comes down to the saying that you should take a break when you don't have time for it. And this is so true, because then you feel overwhelmed the most and stressed the most. And exactly like you were describing before, if you then just step out, at least for a bit, focus on your basic needs and, yeah, your own well-being, yourself a little bit, this recharges your energy, where you are then able to go again and go back to whatever is on your to-do list. Detaching from that a little bit, and yeah, also really listening into yourself. Alright, okay, what do I really need right now? What does my body need, maybe, to feel better? Is it something to eat, for example? Do I feel nervous somehow? Do I have to do something? Maybe a little exercise, like some sports, some exercises are also quite often pretty good to calm me down. And then when this is recharged, go back on track.
Yeah, I personally, like when I'm in a stressed out situation and then I kind of like, let's say, take a break, because I'm stressed out, I can literally not tell what my body needs. So what I do is I just do all of the things. I eat something, I drink something. If I just have eaten something, then no. But like if I've not eaten something in the last couple of hours, I eat something. I eat something, I drink something. I hum and I move my body. Moving your body doesn't always like, because for me in my head, if I hear exercise, I think of a whole workout routine. But regulating your nervous system can literally just be like doing this for like 2 minutes or 1 minute or like even just this, and that's it. Just getting up sometimes can be enough. Yeah, just a little movement. It doesn't have to be a full-blown exercise. You can literally sometimes changing the room, walking from one room to the other is already enough to kind of like get out of that.
Also changing literally the perspective.
Yeah,
because maybe you had the bad feeling, for example, in this seat, and when you change the side over there, also you have another perspective in front of your eyes, and what is also in your head.
yeah. I think that's also something that I've noticed while we did the exercise of honest sharing. What you notice while talking is that there is underlying judgments that we have towards ourselves. Um, I just bring that up because you said that like I'm feeling dumb and that language about it. So there's kind of like a judgment about self that also comes up. So I think that's also very interesting if you're doing it with other people, because you can see in yourself,
Judgments.
you become aware of judgments in yourself that are not even my head thinks that I'm judging myself necessarily, but that just when you hear it, because you're talking so slow and the other person is talking so slow, so you can actually literally hear the judgments in the like, yeah, in the phrases we use. So I thought that was also very interesting. So I think it could also potentially help bring subconscious negative beliefs to light, possibly. Not that that is what you did in the thing today necessarily, but just that's an idea that popped into my head.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Could be. That's for sure.
All right. Another thing I wanted to try out, because today is the tryout episode.
Do you want to try it in this one, or
I want to
we
try
make another one?
I want to try it
Okay,
now.
all right.
Because I don't think it takes that long.
All right.
Okay. So there's a video that's going around that I've already seen, I think a while ago, like maybe a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years. It's kind of timeless since reels were a thing. So I don't know how long, or TikTok, since TikTok was out. So
Anyway,
yeah. And that video is I don't know, some woman doing a laughing exercise.
now
I've said it.
Yeah,
because you just wanted to do it.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Okay.
Or should we cut it out?
We can cut it out.
Okay.
No. Okay, can we try something out?
All right.
So I saw a video online, and I think we have enough time to try it out now. So this is the episode in which we experiment. So bear with us. So I saw a video, and it's kind of like been going viral either way. That's why I wanted to try out. You know exactly what I mean.
Yes.
The
important question for me would be, who's the teacher? Maybe it would be even better when I'm the teacher, because like the result is more natural to me as to you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Should we do it that way?
Okay. And then we're going to talk about it later.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Teach me.
Okay.
Teach me, Sandra. Teach me.
I teach you. Repeat after me.
Okay.
Ha.
Ha.
Ha ha.
Ha ha.
Ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha.
Ha 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 ha.
Ha 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 ha.
Ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha.
Okay, I think it was successful. All right.
So it works.
As an explanation for this little trial we just did, I think it's called laughing yoga. And it's about to try to get other person to laugh, where you start with a unnatural one, like an artificial one, with ha 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 ha, and you can build it up, and the other person repeats that, and at some point, either because you have so many ha ha's after each other, or like I think we did, come into this state of laughing because of the other person, you then start to transfer the artificial laugh into a natural laugh. And also, your brain is not able to make up the difference between an artificial laugh and a real laugh. So all the hormones that you get when you really laugh honestly also get fired when you artificially laugh.
Well, I wanted to I literally just wanted to try it out. I wanted to try it out because I recently had a conversation with my sister where I was in like talking about how I admire your laugh and our common friend Sarah's laugh, because she has the most warm and loud and infectious laugh, and she laughs about everything. No matter what I say, she just laughs as if I'm the funniest person alive. And I'm just like, what did I say? I'm like not even that funny. And but she laughs so loud, and now I'm like, when I see that, I'm kind of probably envious, because I'm like, I want to laugh that loud. And I realized while talking to my sister that my laugh a lot of the time is more like a stuttered out breath. It starts like and then it becomes quiet, and it's just like it's like just breathing. And it's not loud enough. I wondered if that could be due to my breathing, possibly, that my body's just not getting enough oxygen and that's why it's just becoming silence, or what the reason is. But I wanted to practice, and then you kind of like shared the video online, which I've seen before, but like it was kind of like a reminder, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to do that. I want to try laughter yoga because I want to practice also laughing louder. And I wondered if that is due to what I'm thinking, or due to being kind of like intimidated or insecure. Like I was wondering where it's coming from that the laugh is so quiet.
On the other hand, maybe it's also just perception, because I don't have the feeling your laughing is that quiet or that unnatural or something.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's unnatural. I'm just saying I would like it to be louder, and I would like to laugh a lot more often. And a lot of the times I feel like there are so many times where I watch something really funny, and the other thing that comes out of my body is like as if it's not worth a full-blown laugh. And I like having you around because you're laughing a lot, and also Sarah, who's also laughing a lot. And I'm kind of like, I want to be more like children who laugh all the time and not that serious. And for example, my book and like all that stuff, that already reflects that I'm not that serious, but the laughing part does not reflect that. And I want to also have a loud, infectious laugh that makes people feel the way Sarah or you make me feel, like super funny.
I think especially now because you laugh a lot. Maybe I can make you laugh.
Maybe I just have to do more laughing yoga until it becomes louder. The other thing...
Ooh, have you seen the video of the laughing motorbike?
No.
I have to send you that.
Laughing motorbike?
Yeah. It's like, then you can manage actually the volume. It's like, ha 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 ha.
God.
It is that fucking crazy.
I've seen it with like a farting motorbike, but okay, I think I'm getting completely off track now. It's like, have you seen that? The other thing is, there's like this exercise apparently with your natural laugh, where you, like, someone's laying on the floor and you kind of cross their chest and you push, and then the laughter. You want to try that out too? Because we can't go on.
Maybe that comes to fart out, not the laugh.
No, you're pressing on the chest, not on the belly. You want to try it out?
Yeah, well, okay. Okay, I'm gonna lay on the red wine stain. Anyway.
Now she mentioned it. I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, because I couldn't see it. So, what to do?
Yeah, you lay somewhere.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I think somewhere there so people can see it. Well, now you're seeing the stain too. Fuck it.
And that you can't see under my skirt. Okay.
And now you cross your arms. I think that's just not gonna be the easiest because you're already laughing.
You look cute from here.
You also look cute. I think the next problem is gonna be your boobs. Okay. Apparently it brings out the natural love, and I think you need to kind of cross it more like this.
Okay.
So I can press it down. Okay. Breathe in. I don't know if this is working. I mean, you're laughing, but you're always laughing, so it's a bad example.
So maybe I'm the wrong person.
Let's try it the other way. Let's try it the other way. And see. Oh, I think that is probably going to be horrible for our microphones.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. All right. Yeah, and now I have to press here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it because of the pressing?
It's because of the sound that came before. It's like.
Well, you can make yourself laugh.
To be fair, I make myself laugh a lot, but yeah, I can't do that.
How can this work, like, just physically? Because as soon as someone is doing it, the situation itself is so fucking funny. It's the same as I was thinking about. Okay, no one will get the joke unless you speak German. But if you watch a movie in Schweizerdeutsch, like a thriller,
Swiss German, yeah.
Yeah, in Swiss German. And you have such a funny, cute accent. And if you watch a thriller, for example, and they're talking like this, oh my god, I would love the whole fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or even a horror movie. It's no.
You couldn't take it seriously.
It's not possible. It's the same as this. Maybe I think all about that.
No, I think it is also a reflex, because I remember a lot of times where partners or my dad or people squeezed me for fun and I could not stop laughing. Although it was sometimes like, I remember one time where like it stopped being funny and I was squeezed and I did not want to be squeezed and I couldn't stop laughing, and I said, no, but of course if someone's laughing like crazy, you're like thinking they're happy, and then you're not, like, you're disregarding no's, because it's like, no, stop it, like, but you're laughing hard, so like
it's with tickling.
Yeah, it's very similar. I think it's a reflex like tickling. And well, it got to the point where I started like crying, and only when I started crying, the other person stopped and realized, oh fuck, that is actually not funny, because I could not stop laughing, and I did not like want to, you know. And I said, like, stop, but the problem was that I said it, like, in this, while I was laughing, so it's kind of, like, disregarded as kind of, like, because a lot of time, like, because people say it, don't say what they mean so often. They're like, when they're getting teased or when stuff is funny and they're like,
Point number
stop, but
9.
actually they don't, yeah, but they actually don't mean it. Actually they mean, oh, continue, it's so funny. But they say, no, stop. And then when there's a serious situation and you say, no, stop, but you're laughing, that is exactly the same, so it gets interpreted wrong.
What's number 9 in the
Yes.
basic communication from the last episode, number 10?
Yeah, train yourself to say what you mean and mean what you say.
Exactly.
But it is difficult
hard,
because
yeah.
in our society it seems to be the norm, especially cliche wise, between women to say the opposite of what they actually mean, which is so fucking confusing to me personally.
Absolutely. And how often do we say, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, where we are actually not okay? That's one of the best examples. Or, oh, I don't need help, I'm fine.
Mhm.
Or, I don't want anything on birthday. But actually, we would like to, but we would like the other person to do it because they, A, can see it themselves, or they want it themselves, and not because we want them to do it, because just that, yeah, we requested
We
it.
want that they want to do it, and we don't want to have to ask for help.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get that. To be fair, I think it's also like becoming aware of the fact that there's a lot of things that we have been programmed to as children. Basically, for example, to say that we're okay when we're not, to not kind of like ask for help and get stuff done ourselves and like stuff like that. Which is, by the way, the exercise I recently journaled about and realized that I'm, um, yeah, kind of like a lot further in being aware of my, like, of my own mechanisms, and also being a lot further in, like, in my own process, not compared to other people, but in my own process to actually saying what I mean. So yes, sometimes you say I'm okay, but when I say I'm okay for the other person, in the sense that, like, I don't want to talk about it and I want to disregard it. I want to regulate myself in the meantime, and then when I'm regulated again, then you will see that I'm okay. Right now you perceive that I'm not okay, but I will tell you that I'm okay, so you leave me alone so I can process that stuff and get to the okay, basically.
What is also unusual, maybe for a lot of people, is you saying that you can have your me time and that you can regulate yourself because you already learned it and you know how to do it, and that you can do it yourself. Where a lot of people, or yeah, the cliches, also women, tend to say that and actually expect, let's say, the man, take the stereotype, to come back again to her and ask her again, or to help her anyway, for example.
Yeah, I think for a man nowadays it must be so, like, dating must be so confusing, because there's women who are still on the old thing where they're kind of like saying I'm okay, but actually they want to talk about it, and actually they want their partner to kind of like co-regulate them, and they actually want, they're like kind of in this nearly manipulative phase where they want that the other person is like, no, you don't seem okay, what's wrong, and like continues to ask. And then there's people like me who were kind of like, I'm okay, please leave me alone so I can regulate my emotions, because I don't want to, like, I don't want you to co-regulate me, I want to deal with that myself, to investigate. And I think that's because I see so many differences that I tend to explain myself a lot. I've noticed that I explain myself a lot, and then there's this saying that you should never explain yourself and you should never um, justify anything you do. But I feel like the reason why I explain myself is so that there is better understanding, because people are like, especially people who are not completely aware, they don't know what's going on inside of you. No one does. And if you just leave it open to interpretation, people can get a completely wrong picture of you. And yeah, the saying is kind of like, if they do, then let them, but I'm kind of like, give them a chance, just tell them like how you work. Just explain yourself. So I don't really see the issue of why should you not explain yourself to people to make it easier for them to understand where you're coming from or how you work.
I would rephrase it as not explaining yourself, but to get to know each other. Because then you give the other person a chance to get to know you.
Yeah.
So maybe with the word explaining or explanation, it sounds more judging, or that you try to defend yourself or whatever. But it's not. It doesn't have to be. It's about to get to know the other person, what the other person is into or not into, how they tick, and exactly what you said. Because some people are on this, let's let it call old track, where I say, no, it's fine, but please come and run after me. And some not. And how should you know? You can't. So I get the feeling for men, for example, also that they think I can't do it right.
Yeah.
It's guesswork, and this is why I was saying in the last episode, say what you mean. Tell them what you mean. Tell them how you work. And this is essential to understand each other and to get on the same level.
I mean, you can try, but from my experience, people that don't work the same way, I guess, think that I'm trying to defend myself or justify by trying to explain myself to make it visible. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's even then misperceived, but in a way, it is what it is. I don't know. I feel like I got off topic again. But anyway, maybe we should continue that in our philosophy episode.
Well, we can charge the microphones and continue.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good plan. Well, if you enjoyed our episode and if you were even able to see us on the floor, yeah, for our listeners, we always forget that we have listeners because we also record on a video. So earlier when we were laughing, we we're actually like lying on the floor and squeezing our arms. So maybe check out the YouTube episode. But yeah, the natural laughter was when you cross your arms and you get pushed on the floor and someone puts their weight on you and it makes you laugh. I think that's the only thing that might have needed some description for our audio listeners.
Yeah, as I was listening to the loneliness episode the other day in the car, and then it came to the scene where the dogs suddenly came in, and I just heard it and couldn't see it, and I was also thinking, okay, what's happening now? And then I remembered, where the dogs. It's, we recommend the YouTube, or have a look on Instagram or TikTok for some clips. You're probably also gonna see it.
Yeah, so if you enjoyed this episode, rate us 5 stars, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to us on Patreon, get your extra papers, become part of our community, subscribe on Instagram. We now have TikTok as well.
Yes, I wanted to point out that as well.
Today where we also called Bliss Builders podcast.
Where you're probably going to find all these little weird and wonderful clips out of these episodes.
Yeah, so subscribe, because if we get 1,000 subscribers, we get paid from YouTube, which is nice. Because currently, all of us, the reason why we have like so many stuff on our to-do list is because we currently have several jobs at the same time, which is a good thing for saving and investing and stuff, and a bad thing for time. It has, good and bad sides. Either way, so yes, it would support us a lot because we really enjoy this and we would like to do more of it. So yes, rate us 5 stars and subscribe. That helps us a lot, and we're very grateful for that.
More people see us on the floor.
Yeah. And to end the episode with a little bit of gratitude, I am very grateful for doing this laughing, like for all, like for you trying all those exercises with me. And I'm very grateful for the laughter and the good mood it brought me. And now I'm really excited to continue the day thanks to you.
That's beautiful. And brings an idea up in my mind to give an exercise to you guys. Think about a person you are grateful about, that they make you feel happy, that they make you feel loved, and tell them right now. All right.
All right.
See you next time.
See you next time. Thanks for listening.